Hello everybody, my name is Uhari and welcome to my channel Delululand. Today I am going to be talking about a fat activist named Jordan Underwood. In particular, I would like to just deconstruct an argument that was made by Jordan to basically look at the heart of what fat acceptance actually is. Okay, fine, I'll just tell you science denialism. That's what it is, right? Fat acceptance needs to be looked at the same way we look at flat earthers. I'm going to play the clip and then I'll be back to discuss it.
Because it is okay. There's nothing wrong or shameful or otherwise not okay about being 600 pounds or 30 pounds or any weight or looking any certain way. When I say it's okay to be 600 pounds and you say it's not because it's unhealthy, what you're saying is it's not okay to be unhealthy. People get sick. People are disabled. What about that is not okay? Do you really believe that every sick or disabled person should be ashamed, should be judged for the fact that they are sick or disabled? Do you really believe that it's not okay to catch a cold or to catch COVID or to have an eating disorder or to lose a limb? I'm still missing what exactly is not okay about any of these things.
Yeah, so that was a mouthful, wasn't it? I think what scared me the most about this argument is just how shitty it is and just how many logical fallacies there are. And I think that the rhetoric that Jordan uses shows just how disingenuous fat acceptance is. Because if it was something that was logical, Jordan wouldn't feel the need to clump in so many other people in order to imply that being fat and speaking out against being fat is akin to speaking out against other illnesses, which then elicits more sympathy from the audience, or rather is used to do such a thing. But the language itself is very manipulative. Jordan starts off saying that it is okay to be 600 pounds and then says, or 30 pounds or whatever weight, right? And then he says, there's nothing wrong about being any weight or looking any sort of way. There is the first crumb informing us of what we're about to get into. This person has immediately, right, in their first sentence, established that they aren't just talking about health, they are talking about insecurities, right? Because the person said that it's not okay to be 600 pounds. And Jordan links this statement to basically saying that the person is saying that being 600 pounds is unhealthy. And Jordan then says there's nothing wrong with looking any sort of way. Jordan is bringing in aesthetics, and aesthetics then tie into the feelings of fat people and how they are hurt when people say things like being 600 pounds is not okay, instead of looking at the logical components as to why it is unhealthy and why that matters. Instead, Jordan quickly wants to draw on your emotions. Jordan then starts to misrepresent the person's statement, right? Jordan decides to cling to the word unhealthy and uses the concept of unhealthy towards other ailments when unhealthy in the context of the conversation that was being had was weight, right? But Jordan's about to bring in all sorts of other ailments in order to try and manipulate you into thinking that you believing that something is unhealthy is somehow harmful. Jordan then says, do you really believe that every sick or disabled person should be ashamed? No. The commenter said nothing about disabled people, right? Or sick people in general. The comment was about it not being okay to be 600 pounds. And somehow, now Jordan has us in a position where we're saying it's not okay to be disabled or sick. Nobody said that. What was said was that being 600 pounds is unhealthy. But all of a sudden, now we're discriminating against disabled people. Ashamed is a very emotive term that shouldn't be in the same conversation as unhealthy. Unhealthy isn't about shaming you. Unhealthy is about diagnosing you and then giving you the tools to then reach a healthy point, a point that's good for you. Why are we talking about shame all of a sudden when somebody was just talking about the health aspects of being 600 pounds and just being 600 pounds, not stretching it to any other topic, which Jordan then does. Then Jordan uses another very emotive term. Do you believe that people should be judged for the fact that they are sick or disabled? Saying that it is not healthy to carry 600 pounds of weight on your body is not the same as judging someone, not for their weight and definitely not for their disability, which again is a talking point that Jordan has inserted for no good reason. This is a red herring. It's basically Jordan trying to distract from the fact that what he has to say is utter bullshit by throwing as many other distracting arguments that look similar to what you're actually talking about but aren't. Jordan has now taken the conversation of health and brought it to emotions and all the things that unhealthy triggers in their mind when it is said. Unhealthy is very much a medical term. I understand that it can be weaponized against fat people. I know that. I was once a fat person who was very unhealthy. And then, oh, Jordan said, do you really believe it's not okay to catch a cold or catch COVID or to have an eating disorder or to lose a limb? Baton, people, when and where did the comment mention losing limbs, eating disorders, or COVID and the cold? You're trying to imply that as a society, we shame people for being sick when stating that it's not okay to be 600 pounds isn't about shaming people, it's about helping people. If medical science just decides it's okay to be fat and no research is done into being fat or the implications thereof, fat people would be living in much worse conditions because physicians wouldn't even know how to train to help fat people. And how dare you take somebody saying that being 600 pounds is unhealthy, see that, and then say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tie myself directly to the image of suffering by including a lot of other groups that suffer and then attaching my identity to victimhood in order to shame other people for simply stating that being 600 pounds is unhealthy and therefore not okay. All of a sudden, we're discriminating against people losing limbs. You're the one who's discriminating against people losing limbs because you're the ones who stigmatize intentional weight loss. And if people get diseases such as diabetes and it progresses to a point where they have to lose a limb, you will then gladly claim them as disabled instead of talking about how they didn't need to devolve into a state of disability when they had an able body. Being disabled by accident or birth is one thing, but being disabled because you ate yourself into morbid obesity, that's something that's completely different. That's something that is troubling. And that is something that needs to be dealt with, but not in fact acceptance. Jordan then says, I'm still missing what exactly is not okay about any of these things. The things that Jordan has now listed. Okay, we've come to the end of this horrible, horrible point that Jordan was trying to make, which I don't even know what the point is, to be honest. It was just a whole lot of shit. Just shit. Everything you said was shit, okay? It was harmful shit. It was not at all intellectual, right? It was stupid. And also, it was a lie. Jordan knows exactly what is not okay about being 600 pounds because Jordan is doing everything they can to lose weight and manage a disease that causes him to store a lot of fat in his lower body. Jordan understands that his rapid weight gain over the past 2 to 3 years is dangerous. Jordan continuously went to doctors looking for the answer. Jordan openly talked about how his standard of living had diminished and how much they were active prior to COVID and prior to their health taking a quick and sharp turn for the negative. If it was okay to gain weight endlessly, Jordan would never have sought out help. Jordan is currently working very hard to get into a clinic in Germany where they specialize in lipodemia. If there was nothing wrong about being 600 pounds, you wouldn't go to the doctor, but you know something is wrong in your body. Yet somehow you're busy telling all your audience that, hey, it's okay to be 600 pounds. No, it's not. It's not okay to be 600 pounds, Jordan, because people deserve a higher standard of living. People who are living inside of bodies that are 600 pounds do not have the motion that you once had. And you know just how therapeutic moving can be. And you miss how your body used to feel when you were lighter than what you are now. Yet for some reason, you're telling other people that they should be complacent as well. It's not helping people, it's harming them. It's keeping them from being proactive about their health, particularly young people who suffer the most from these kinds of ideologies. This leads me to my second argument, and that is a statement that Jordan makes in his intro for his videos. I'm just going to play his intro real quick.
This series will include in-depth discussion of my personal health and wellness. I have previously made a concerted effort to keep this information private because health is not a measure of morality, and yet for fat people, it is often weaponized as such. Regardless of how I speak about my experiences and center my politic fighting for fat and disabled folks, as a fat and disabled person, I have concerns around those who may fail to separate my experiences with my own health, the healthcare system, and disability from that of all fat people, or worse, use my experiences to harm other fat and or disabled people. Furthermore, healthy or not, disabled or not, as fat people, we will always be deserving of safety, dignity, infrastructural access, human decency, and equitable access to medical care. Weight is not an indicator of health.
You heard it right, folks. Straight out of Jordan's mouth. Weight is not an indicator of health.
And at this point, my legs are so swollen that my ankles are cuffing, right? So you can see in the photos, like there is a distinct abnormal cuff around my ankle. That's not normal, like normal fat distribution. You know, most fat people, even very, very fat people, do not have that sort of fat distribution. That really just comes from lymphedema or lipedema or a combination of the two. That is not picked up on by anyone.
Weight is not an indicator of health. and they do just a vein mapping, which is something that they did at the ER as well. What they do is they take an ultrasound, they go through and look at all of your veins to see if there is any blood clots, because that can be a very big problem. And that is a common cause of leg swelling, which is why it needs to be treated with urgency, because it can be either heart failure or like blood clots, and neither of those things lead to alive people.
Weight is not an indicator of health.
Then in about the fall, I was getting better from my surgery. I was feeling like I was, I could go start doing full body exercise again. And so in an effort to improve the edema, I decided I was going to start working out 5 days a week. So I'm going to hot yoga and I'm going to water aerobics 5 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. And my leg swelling is getting worse. It's still getting worse. Nothing is changing. And, I'm going to the doctor. I'm like, what is happening?
Weight is not an indicator of health.
They put me on metformin because they're like, oh, you keep gaining weight. What's happening? I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm saying what's happening. I've put on a lot of weight at this point. I typically weigh about, as an adult, I have weighed about 350 to 375, like for most of my adult life until this began. And when I went to the ER, I weighed 416, I think. And that was when, I clued in and I was like, what's happening?
Weight is not an indicator of health.
I weighed like 480 or something. I have that weight jump. They do like an echocardiogram where they like ultrasound your heart and everything's fine, except that the cardiologist is like, you're gaining all this weight. Like, have you seen an endocrinologist? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen like 50 doctors at this point. Like, what do you want me to say? Like,
why do you expect me to know what that is?
I literally, whatever. So I make an appointment with this endocrinologist. I go and it's like about, I would say like a month and a half later. And I have, since the cardiologist weighed me, gained another 40 pounds. In 2 months, gaining 40 pounds is not possible.
Yeah, I mean, your body's never been like that before.
No, but it's also like physically not possible. Like you can't do that from like, just like eating too much.
Weight is not an indicator of health.
You started a channel called Lumpy Legs to discuss what it's like to live with lipidemia. In your videos, you talk about all the steps that you are taking to try and remedy the rapid weight gain that you have experienced. You have been from doctor to doctor to doctor trying to get help.
Here we are. I've seen probably, let me count. I think I've seen 10 doctors.
And get a diagnosis. And eventually you did. You were diagnosed with lipidemia. And because of that, you are trying to get treatment. You are doing things to better yourself. Why would you then tell your audience that they shouldn't try to better themselves, that they should be complacent in whatever diseased or unhealthy state they are in, that they are okay being stagnant? If that was the case, then you wouldn't be working so hard to get treatment.
This past week, I did get diagnosed with lipedema.
Woo! You say weight isn't an indicator of health, yet your rapid weight gain is what clued you in to something being wrong. And as you felt and watched yourself gain an extraordinary amount of weight in a short time, you identified the fact that weight is directly attached to health. Because you getting bigger was a problem for you. It took away so much from you. The standard of living that you had when you were younger was gone. You were able to dance. I'm going to include a clip.
I was going up onto my roof and dancing and, remaining less active than I was before, but still, moving my body and doing these things and feeling good.
Jordan is a very active person, or at least he was when he was still healthier and his lipidemia hadn't progressed to the stage that it is now, which is, I think, like the most serious stage that lipidemia can be in. Jordan was a very very active person. Anybody who has had any sort of accident that has kept you from physical activity, particularly if you're a person who enjoys certain types of exercise, knows how depressing it can feel. Exercise can become a coping mechanism for us. And when your body can no longer do that, when you aren't able to exercise, not because you're lazy, but because you physically don't have the strength, it sucks. And it brings you down and it affects your mental health in a negative way. And you can see just how negatively Jordan's life has been impacted over the past 3 to 4 years because of the progression of his lipidemia. Jordan is trying to get help in Germany, where they lead the world with research on lipidemia. Jordan is listening finally to his body, right? Why are you telling other people not to do the same? Why are you lying? Why are you lying and saying it's okay to be 600 pounds? Because if it was, you wouldn't have gone and gotten help. You would have stayed the way you are. You would have suffered and then you would have passed. Instead, you are being proactive, but in the same time, telling other people that they shouldn't be. And that's the most insidious thing about fat acceptance, is that it's geared towards influencing society to see things their way. A world in which morbid obesity is not a bad thing. You can't seek medical attention because your weight alerted you to something wrong with your body and say that weight is not an indicator of health. Either weight is an indicator of health or it isn't. And if it isn't, then young people shouldn't attempt to get any help to manage their weight to try and get to a healthier standpoint. No, instead, they must waste their youth brainwashed so that they can wake up in their late 20s or 30s and realize how many years have been stolen from them, years in which they could have improved themselves and given themselves a better chance at longevity. When we are young, that is the prime time to take ownership of our health. The decisions we make today affect the lives that we will live tomorrow. If you accept your fatness, your morbid obesity, as not being something that is troubling, you are committing active self-harm. Because the reality is, with enough effort, conscious effort, weight can be conquered. Because fat isn't a disability. It's a necessary part of our bodies. We need fat to stay alive, but we need to be balanced. There are many people who are like Jordan, who are living with logically inconsistent beliefs. If we look at our loved ones, we want to keep them alive as long as possible so that we can be with them, have that time with them. And then when a young person is taken up by an ideology that says it's okay to be sick and you don't have to do anything about it. Weight can be physical and genetic, exactly like Jordan. Jordan is genetically predisposed to morbid obesity, right? Jordan's problems are legitimate. It's just that his rhetoric is very much in opposition to his actions. Jordan says he found fat acceptance when he was about 17, and that's when he decided to stop trying to intentionally lose weight. Had Jordan tried to intentionally lose weight and had Jordan gone to doctors the way that Jordan is doing it now, he wouldn't have found himself in a position where he is so young and his lipidemia has progressed to such a devastating extent. I feel very sorry for Jordan because his weight is not as in control as everybody else's. Even if Jordan eats the healthiest and does the most, his body fights to accumulate fat. So I understand how somebody can be taken in by this ideology, because if you're somebody who fights to lose weight, but you never see rapid results and you're always struggling and it just feels harder for you than it is for other people, I understand how comforting fat acceptance can be in that moment. But that comfort, it's a false sense of security. Morbid obesity catches up with you, and it catches up fast. One of the greatest benefits of losing weight is regaining mobility. When I was at my highest, tying my shoelaces was difficult. I could no longer just bend over and tie them. I had to do this maneuver where I get on one knee and then I try to lift myself up. And the first time I realized that I can no longer just bend down to tie my shoes, I knew that there was something wrong about what my body had become. And I realized that I had let myself go. I realized that the maladaptive coping mechanisms that I'd been using to process my pain were actually doing me a lot of harm. I realized that no matter how beautiful I can feel being morbidly obese, I won't have. When your emotion becomes restricted, you can look at other people and be like, damn, I wish I could move like that. If you are able-bodied, if the only thing standing between you and motion is excess weight, you can free yourself from that prison. I understand how fat acceptance pulled Jordan in. But I think it's very important for Jordan to realize that telling people that not paying attention to their weight is okay because it's okay to be any size, that's a very irresponsible message for somebody to be sending out there. I hope that Jordan and other people within fat acceptance can be honest with themselves. Obesity is not a good thing. And it is not okay to be 600 pounds. And if you have the power to fight against such debilitating conditions, wouldn't you want to? Thank you, everybody. If you've tuned in and made it to the end, thank you so much. Please tell me what you think about the topic. What are your feelings about the rhetoric that fat acceptance pushes? How do you feel about somebody who is trying to get treatment for an obesity related disease? How do you feel about that person telling people that being 600 pounds is okay? Because I think that's some dark shit. Thank you so much. I hope you will come back to join me for my next one. My email is on the About page if you want to talk to me. I don't have any social media because fuck Meta and Reddit can suck my dick. Okay, everybody. Bye.